I'm being hard on these riders is the level of competition they're facing in this Tour de France. It's just hard to get better. It's the best of the best riders out there. So when I'm saying to Demar, I don't think he can win today, I'm not really putting him down. I'm just saying that realistically, Philipsen, Milan, Girmay are just a bit better.
Biniam Girmay has been asked this morning about that fight yesterday with Jonathan Milan, and he said, yeah, that we had an argument. It looked worse on television than it was in terms of the move that I made. And Jonathan Milan went up and apologized afterwards.
And we actually didn't get to see the move.
No.
We just saw, and you know, I mean, today, obviously, the TV is there, social media is there, but the amount of time that happens, the amount of time that riders give out to each other, you give out to each other for 2 minutes, or even that, it was probably 45 seconds, and then you give each other a tap on the shoulder and you go. I mean, you have to remember, when they cross the line, the heart rate is 190 heart rate, and they've just done a sprint to get points for the green jersey. The adrenaline is pumping. The slight move, and yes, I mean, everybody is hot-blooded in the peloton. Everyone has a strong personality, and it clashes, and then you just realize that, okay, it was just for the situation. And as Milan said, there was nothing wrong. I'm really sorry, overreacted, gave him a tap on the shoulder, went to apologize in the bus, and today is all clear.
All good again.
And that's the life in the peloton.
Inside 140 kilometers of racing to go. A rider on the bike path there, just riding alongside the peloton. Just shows how fast they are still going, because he can't keep up and they're just rolling along having a conversation. We like to bring you a little bit of history on the Tour de France. Let's go back to 1991 when we rode to Valenciennes with the Maillot Jaune Sorensen.
The Tour de France 1991 in Valenciennes. It's the end of stage 5, and at the official podium ceremony, there's one question on everybody's lips. Where is the yellow jersey? Unfortunately for Rolf Sorensen, he was here in an ambulance, receiving medical treatment after a late crash. Sorensen went down in the final kilometers. He landed heavily on his shoulder and dislocated his collarbone. He crossed the line on his bike, and only then did we realize how serious the injury was. He's in a lot of pain and he can't hold his arm, although we'll have to wait for the X-ray to be sure that he is out of the race. But when that X-ray arrived, it showed that the left collarbone was fractured, so game over for Sorensen. The Dane had been caught up in this crash when the peloton was just a few kilometers from Valenciennes. A few minutes later, Jelle Nijdam attacked in trademark style under the Flamme Rouge. Turbo Jelle was a hard man to catch once he lit the afterburners. The Dutchman following in the footsteps of his father Henk, a track world champion in the pursuit and winner of 2 Tour stages himself. Nijdam Jr. denying the sprinters to take his 6th and final Tour victory. But the stage was also marked by Sorensen's abandon, and nobody would wear the yellow jersey the following day.
Rolf Sorensen, who won 2 stages of the Tour de France and 2 team time trial stages of the Tour de France, as these riders work their way back into the peloton. Mathieu van der Poel just did a cyclocross stop at the side of the road and had a nature break, bunny hopping his way onto the path and dismounting as he does. Sorensen also won a stage of the Giro d'Italia individually and a team time trial stage, and he also won Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Milano-Torino, Tour of Flanders, Paris Tours. I was just thinking, I haven't seen him at this race yet. We normally see Rolf Sorensen with us around the commentary positions.
Yeah, and we see the cars. Haven't seen the cars either.
No,
they're always very flashy, branded cars with their names and heads on them.
Absolutely. So they're not here at the moment, or we've just missed them. 137.9 kilometers of racing to go. So that took us back to 1991. Lots of history around the Tour de France. One thing that was interesting was seeing Jelle Nijdam win that stage of just jumping away before the end of the race. You don't see that very often now.
No, the speed in the final end, like I said, it's probably 5 to 7 teams riding flat out with their sprinter teams, that it's very difficult to. There we go. There's the kiss.
It's taken 3 stages, but he's finally done it.
I know you were staring at him.
Go on. Yeah, come back to yellow item. The speed is too high.
The speed at the moment is too high. It was actually very funny to see the cadence of the riders in the back. You could see they were sprinting and then sitting back and then sprinting and sitting again. I'll be very similar to next year in the Peloton when they'll be back on the 52.11.
Average speed of racing after 1 hour, 36.2 kilometers an hour. It's very steady on stage 3 of the Tour de France. Lots of conversations going on about the restriction of gears. We talked about that yesterday. I noticed there was an article about that, if you want to read it, on one of the websites, cycling websites today. As the Alpecin-Deceuninck team continue. Niels Pollard at the back, wearing number 4. A lot of information on that article about Dan Bigham's presentation about restricting gears. Marigny Golf is where we are riding past now, a nicely manicured golf course in this particular area. So Marigny Golf we're riding past. We're not far now from Orchy, Les Orchy, which is part of the route of the Paris-Roubaix. We don't go on to the cobbles, as Thierry Gouveneau told us earlier on. And then we head towards Templouve, and we've just gone through there, and now we're down near Marigny, with a population of 3,480 people in the Pavel between Pont-à-Marc and Bercy. That golf course opened in 2008, 10 hectares. It's got 19 holes, as always. All golf courses have 19 holes, 18 and 1 for sitting, celebrating or commiserating afterwards. Primož Roglič has lost a fair amount of time, 49 seconds so far. But he'll be more worried about that later in the year, later in the race, after 3 weeks of racing, as to see where he ends up standing. Here comes the yellow jersey, pedaling his way back into the race, having been stopped at the side of the road. A little bit of an effort in that wind, but he's safely back in the area with Jordi Mus alongside him, wearing number 73. Team of Soudal Quickstep now assisting in the tempo with Maximilian Schachmann, the German champion formerly, on the front. You can see the little German flags around the cuffs of that jersey. So they've decided they're going to assist, and then the rest of the Soudal Quickstep team are sitting behind the team of Alpecin-Deceuninck with their sprinter Tim Merlier, the European champion. It shows their commitment. They've decided that they want to commit to this race and try and bring Tim Merlier the stage victory this afternoon. Still, the formation is slightly to the midsection of the road, with everybody diagonal to the left-hand side very slightly. And now it then goes into one straight line as the pace continues. Let's think about another of our teams, the team of Jaco Alula. What's the reason for Ben O'Connor, Ed Dunbar, Luke Durbridge, Dylan Groenewegen, Luca Metgetz, Luke Plapp, Elmer Reinders, and Mauro Schmidt for being in this Tour de France?
Well, I think they will fight for GC and support Ben O'Connor for GC. They have a strong team around him in the mountains, and he's shown his potential over the last few years that he can be one of the top GC riders. And they have another one of the very fast riders in this peloton, Groenewegen, and I think he also has a fair chance today. We know he likes a little bit of those hectic sprints. He's very good in positioning himself when he doesn't have a perfectly laid train. He's capable of jumping from one train to the other and adapting to the sprint, and he has a very high top speed, what you will need today.
6 stage victories in his career so far. 3 riders making their debut in the Tour de France: Eddie Dunbar, Luke Plapp and Mauro Schmidt. So 3 out of the 8 have not ridden a Tour de France before.
But they're experienced riders. Eddie Dunbar, double Vuelta stage winner last year. Mauro Schmidt, excellent climber. We've seen him at the front of many World Tour races. And Luke Plapp, obviously young and talented, was Australian champion or former Australian champion.
Stage winner in the Giro d'Italia.
Exactly. So I think they're the first Tour de France, but they're not rookies of cycling. They've done extremely well over the past few years.
All about then trying to place Ben O'Connor as high up as possible, and Dylan Groenewegen trying to take his 7th stage win of his career. That's the reason why they're there, and we're trying to give you a little bit of a shape as to why these different teams have different strategies within the Tour de France. And that's the beauty of it. It's 3 weeks, 21 stages. Only one rider can win the Tour de France. There's a lot of riders who dream of winning it, but then the team has got to sit down and think, what are we trying to achieve here? What will keep our sponsors happy? How do they decide that? Is it the head of performance? Is it the owner of the team? How do they decide what the objective is, as we have a stop at the side of the road?
Well, it's a mix between many different things, actually. But sometimes this goal changes literally a couple of weeks before the Tour de France. Look at the case of EF, for example. They were going to go for GC with Carapaz, and suddenly he is not here on the start line, and they reshaped the team for stages. I remember with Sunweb as well, Tom Dumoulin decided the team to the Tour. We had all the plan of helping out Tom Dumoulin. And next thing is also about focusing on stages and helping Matthews in the sprints. So it was always about refocusing, and sometimes it's last minute. Other times it's a clear strategy from the team over multiple years. You will see teams who will invest in different types of riders to build that Tour de France team within years. Obviously, you have to make sure that the contracts, especially in this modern cycling, contracts are longer. They used to be 1 or 2 years, so it was easier to change teams, or if you needed to. But now most of the contracts are often 3 to 4 years, even for the younger riders, which means that if you're looking to invest in the younger riders, you might have to wait a little bit. So you have to try and find another rider that might do the same job, but it might be plan B rather than plan A. So it's not as simple as that to organize your Tour de France team. And then you just have to jungle with force as well. There could be riders who you planned the whole year and suddenly they're out of form for whatever reason. Like, for example, Gaudu last year. When he was there, he said he would only be top 5 of the Tour de France, and suddenly things don't work the way you want to go. So it's very difficult to plan. Some sponsors have a clear strategy. UAE, for example, Torji. And they know, and they've been doing that for the last couple of years. Some of the teams change strategy over the winter on recruitment.
There was an interview yesterday which touched on the sponsors, which was quite an interesting interview. Let's just hear the radio of EF first. EF Education Easy Post.
Michael, Casper, you two who understand this kind of racing, keep your eyes open, because there's obviously some interesting games going on here between the sprinters teams about who's going to pull and who's going to try to force another team to pull.
Charlie Wegelius in the team car. What's his reason for saying that? Is it not obvious, or is he trying to give some instruction to his squad in a certain way?
I think this is a message that could be from quite some time ago, when they were playing attacking and it was the teams who were supposed to ride. And I think that's the message when we saw those couple of riders just riding off the front. And that's probably what he thought about the sprinters train games, about, okay, you send, it was very common, for example, in the past, you don't see that happening again quite often, where you send one of your, Quickstep was very good at that. They'd send a ride up the front to make sure that they were not pulling behind us. Oh, we got a guy in the breakaway, so why should we pull? All these kind of rules, or if you had a ride in the breakaway, you don't pull, they're out the window as well. If a team says it's going to be a sprint day, even if they have a rider in the front, they will make sure it's a sprint there, because it's not about giving the rider in the front a chance. It's about winning with, or giving a chance to the better rider on the day.
Right.
So those are the little nuances in tactics now. So yes, before, like I said, there was always this battle about, oh, keep an eye out, because this sprinter team goes in the breakaway, it means that they won't want to ride behind. All that's gone out the window now in this very recent cycling.
But he's obviously directing it very carefully at two riders. These are the more experienced riders that he's trying to help the team be educated.
Or that maybe he had in the back of the mind that if the breakaway went, to maybe try and go with it.
He's talking about Kasper Asgreen, who's a stage winner.
And he's won a stage that was not supposed to be won by a breakaway rider. This is why I was thinking about that.
UAE team radio coming up.
Guys, if you need something, tell us, because Tadej is here with us.
Tadej back at the team car, which is unusual. He doesn't go back to the team car that often during the Tour de France, but he's back there now. Does show, Nico, the situation where the communication between the riders and the sports directors, that there are moments of just trying to make everyone's life a little bit easy. Having Tadej back at the team car, telling everybody he's there, and not wasting everybody's time by asking for something in 5 minutes' time.
You're always trying to optimize. It's quite tiring to move back up the peloton, so you're always trying to optimize going down to the car. And I mean, most likely he's coming back from a quick nature break, and this is why he was in the car. But you always try and talk, and there's often one rider who goes a bit more than other riders. That's kind of his job for the day.
We're into Monton-Pavé, which is very close to a stretch of cobblestones in the Paris-Roubaix. One of the most famous stretches of the Hell of the North. Coming back to that interview I was going to mention very quickly, which kind of highlighted about the sponsors. Jürgen Forer, who's the CEO of the Soudal Quickstep team, having taken over as CEO with Patrick Lefevre, the former owner of the team, going into retirement. He's still very actively involved, but he's not doing everything day to day with the team. Jürgen Forer said, everyone pulling, and today was better. We had a better day with Remco. We talked about stage one. We focused on what went wrong. We spoke openly. We're now turning the page. We missed chances. We missed the GC time. We missed the sprint for Tim. For the team and for the sponsor, stage one was not a happy day. Let's hear now from another sprinter, Pascal Ackermann.
Yeah, we have a clear plan today, and we want to go for the win. And I'm the sprinter today, and I have Jake as a lead-out guy today, and I hope everything is going well today, and we just come together on the last 500 meters.
And you have a very fast bike. Can you talk to us about this this specific machine?
We can't speak about it.
Because it's so good?
No, because we have not so many details. We know it feels fast on the road, but we don't know anything else about the bike.
And how are the legs? Can you speak about the legs?
I mean, you saw already the first day, my legs are really good. Also yesterday I saved a lot. I was just sitting in a bunch and saved all in for today, and I think my legs are quite good.
Well, he was in a happy mood, smiling away. And there's a lot of talks around that bike over the last, couple of weeks. Also, one of the part of some of the new regulations for next year. But I also understand, I don't think he's not lying, because Sepp Piquet actually asked other riders during the Dauphiné about the bike, and they came up with the same answer. And I don't think they're lying at all. I think there's moments where, well, you're just given the bike, you're told it's faster, you're not an engineer, and there's some specific details that obviously there was a lot of R&D and a lot of expensive engineers and years maybe of engineering done behind the work of this bike. So you're not just going to give it away on some interview. So the best way to keep that secret is not to reveal it to even riders, because you know that if a rider knows about it, it might slip at some point, even if it's not done on it purposely. Ackermann, one of the riders that also has a good chance today. He's done extremely well in those big fun sprints. Very fast rider, and loves it when it's really flat. He kind of struggles sometimes when it's a bit more the harder stages. And the bunch now really spread out. Still with his two teams riding. So by using Schachmann here in the front, well, it also gives the right to Remco to ride a lot more in the front of the peloton. You can see him just there on the right with his gold helmet. There's some kind of a positioning as well. There's also a game. We're talking about games. Well, when you commit to the chase, your team is let ride in the front. And sometimes if you're looking to be a little bit more protected, and they actually have two valid excuses to ride today, well, you put a ride in the front. At this stage of the race, I'm talking about. When it comes to the finish, is if you're there, you're there. If you're not there, doesn't matter who is riding. You will need to fight for your position. But at this moment in the race, when you're committing to the chase or just to riding, because at this point there is no breakaway, well, you're allowed to be in the front position of the bunch. And we know they got caught out here today. Remco said in an interview, we're in 35th, 40th place. I thought I was safe. And next thing, there was a split. So today he doesn't want to be in that position, and he's going to ride at the very front. Even though today is a less aggressive day, the wind is not as bad, or the direction of the wind is not as bad as the other day, and there is less risk of crosswinds. But just to be safe, you want to ride in the front. You're not losing too much energy. You're safe or safer. Less reason of crashing in the front as well. And Philipsen here looking pretty chilled, back in his normal jersey, the green jersey. He's worn really well. And Mathieu van der Poel on the opposite. Not really the normally yellow jersey, always in the front, but he likes to ride a little bit more in the back, apart from yesterday where he was in the front quite early. He did say it was a very tense day. As we see the Chateau Blanc.
Chateau Blanc, beautiful chateau built in the 16th century, around about 1541. Chateau that was used in the First and Second World Wars by the occupying troops, by the FFI, and a British unit for several months during the liberation. Ben O'Connor taking his socks off.
Shoe covers.
Shoe covers off.
And that's one of the things as well now. The shoe covers are so tight, you need to put them before. So you put them over your sock without your shoe, and then you put your shoe on, and then they stretch over the shoe.
And they're hard to get off.
And they're hard to get off, yeah. And most time you crack them. It's very frustrating.
Talking about socks, I heard a rumor today, and I'm not going to tell you who told me this rumor because it wouldn't be fair, but I heard a rumor this morning that Mathieu van der Poel only ever wears his cycling racing socks once and then throws them away.
In race days?
Yes.
60 race days, 60 pair of socks. You must have a bigger allocation than what I ever had.
What did you used to have?
Probably get 20.
20?
Yeah, so you want to do 3 race days.
Okay. Do you reckon that's true?
It wouldn't surprise me.
No.
There is one thing that that is, especially in the Tour de France, I wouldn't be surprised if it's just for the Tour de France. But you do not like grey socks. And unfortunately, team carers cannot do a white washing machine and a blue or grey washing machine. So you're washing colors and whites together.
Do they? Always?
Of course.
Okay.
You really think we're going to do a washing machine just for socks?
No.
Okay,
that's
there
true,
you go.
Yes.
So your white socks on day 2 are grey.
Okay, yep.
And I have to say, nothing looks as nice as a pair of new socks. So when you're Mathieu van der Poel, why not? Unfortunately, like I said, in the Tour, I would do every 3 days because you're at the Tour de France. And what you do is you keep 1 or 2 pair of the grey socks that you use on the rainy day. Because then you know, and then you can just bin them because most of the times they would be just black, just from the oil, from all the dirt from the road. So I'm not fully surprised. He's just lucky he got 60 pair of socks.
So you got 20 pairs of socks for the whole season?
About that, yeah.
Okay.
20, maybe 25. And those that were good to keep, I'd usually just give them to friends or my little brother at the end of the year. They always come in handy.
Fans at the side of the road enjoying watching the Tour de France go by nonetheless. I reckon it's part of his contract.
White socks?
Because no one wears anything other than white socks anymore, do they? Very rarely. Arkea used to wear black ones. But now you look down on this peloton and it's all white.
Yeah, white socks are back trendy. It kind of turned away at some point. I remember we had black socks at Team Sky. Well, we had both, actually. Because there was a discussion with Geraint Thomas, who used to really not like, what was it, the white sock, the white shoe with the black socks was a no-go for Geraint Thomas.
White socks with...
No, white shoe.
Shoe with a black sock.
With a black sock. It was a no-go.
Okay.
If you had to have black shoes, you could wear any color socks, but white shoes had to be with white socks. Okay. Just like now on the front of the screen.
Yeah, look, there's no coloured socks, is there, in that peloton at all?
How is Visma? I think Visma might be yellow. Yes, Visma's yellow.
Visma have got yellow, but apart from that, pretty much... Oh, Intermarché have got some black socks, or are those over socks? But you are right about the grey. The team of Alpes and de Koenig have got slightly grey socks, so they have washed their white socks with those grey kits.
They're all in shoe covers, I think.
Oh, okay.
It looks like the third rider is no shoe. Third and fourth rider have no. There you go. But the socks are grey.
It's like, see, this is the reverse of what Laura Kenny used to do. So Laura Kenny, of course, is an Olympic champion. She used to wear the same pair of socks. But what she used to do before a race is stand on a wet towel. Because she had, before she won her first Olympic gold medal, she stood on a wet towel in the bathroom before she won the title. So she then had to do it all the way through her career.
And I was also told that she had to force some of her teammates to do it at some point, so not to break the charm.
Some weird things that people do to make them feel like they want to win a bike race. We're going to have a little portrait now of a rider who's been riding really well in this race in the first 2 days, Matteo Trentin of the team of Tudor Pro Cycling.
I have more experience. I lost my hair. If I stop tomorrow, for sure I'm going to be proud of what I did until now. I think I was already quite versatile. I was maybe more a sprinter than now, but yeah, it was also different cycling. Typical Tour de France breakaway day, millions of attacks. We go with this group and then certainly I win the sprint.
Rocas trying to get through with Matteo Trentin on the line. It is going to be Trentin who takes it.
So it was super good. It was my first pro win. first pro win in the Tour de France, then it's then you start on a pretty good level. That one was different, you know. The final was pretty technical and hard. I made like an endless long sprint.
And there's a Sagan breaks for the finish, and I think he's pipped on the line.
And I beat Peter just by probably like 3-4 centimeters.
It's almost celebration time for Matteo Trentin.
Some years later.
We've just witnessed a Matteo masterclass.
The magnificent Matteo Trentin makes it 4 for Mitchelton Scots.
Actually, it's one of the few wins I have in my palmarès where I finished solo. And actually finishing solo in the Tour de France with the European champion jersey, that was also pretty special. Maybe you have lessons more than regrets. If you made a mistake, you probably have to be able to don't make it twice. It's a new cycling coming on. You see new champion coming in and making this sport even more nice to watch. And of course now in Tour de Pro cycling I have different roles, from winning the races, scoring points, and helping our bunch of kids to rise the bar as well, to pass over my experience. I mean, I can pass my knowledge of cycling in my own way, but on the other side I can also learn something from these guys. I already set up a party for the end of the Tour de France, so the amount of how big the party gonna be, it's if I win a stage or not.
.6 kilometres to go on stage 3 of the Tour de France, with the peloton all together, and no breakaway has formed today. The riders dealing with crosswinds, and will go into a headwind for the last kilometres of today's stage, from about 70 kilometres to go. Got a little bit of a ride until we get there. Matteo Trentin, an interesting rider who's been quite versatile during his career, now more of a road captain, but he has already shown that he can be up there in the race. Finishes on stage number 1 of this year's race. Trentin has won stages here in the Tour before. I remember him winning that solo one because I was suddenly asked at the last minute to run out and do his interview right on the race finish. And he came in, he was caked, pouring with sweat. Been a big old day out for him and a fantastic victory.
It's a rider I like a lot. We were neighbors for almost 8 years. And when I'd be on my balcony in the morning having my coffee, I'd see him on his city bike with 2 kids going to school around 8:30, and then he'd be out back for training at 9. So I'd be on the balcony every morning saying, and I used to call him Vicino. Vicino is neighbor in Italian. And I'd say, "Hi, Vicino." And even now when we meet on the bike training, he always says, "Hi, Vicino."
He's a rider also who's involved in an end-of-season criterium in Monaco.
In Monaco, which I give a hand. So him and his wife, Claudia, organized this massive event called Biking in Monaco. On the last weekend, of November. So it's a very nice family day. In the morning, there's like a pro-am race with some local politics. Some VIP guests, there's sometimes some Formula 1s or tennis players that come along as well. And then in the afternoon, you have the elite race, or the professional race, around the Monaco port. And then in the evening, there's a bit of a gala dinner and an auction for different charities. The first year was for Princess Charlene's charity. And I think the last year they changed the charity. I forgot the name of what charity they were supporting last year. I was getting involved. Actually, I had the privilege to do the commentary for the international signum with them 2 years ago and last year. And what I do is riders need a bit of babysitting sometimes, and I was a little bit the chaperone because we get very distracted. And trying to get 50 riders to start on time, the criterium, when the family and the kids are around, and it's a massive family day. It's a very, very welcome by the riders. And obviously Matteo is racing. Claudia and her team are doing all the logistics and the work that was done before, and there needs to be someone who's telling, "Hey guys, come on, can you go and get onto the start line?" And the first year they had someone that was part of the organization that came and gave a hand. And obviously none of the riders were listening. So I was like, Nico, they might listen to you. Can you go and do it?
How did you find that?
So last year, my job was running after everybody to make sure they're on time for the start. Obviously, they need to be on time because Prince Albert comes to the start, and some first edition, also Princess Charlene come to the start. So, and they're on a tight schedule, so it needs to be on time. So that was my responsibility last year. I get a free dinner out of it.
Did you enjoy that?
I did. It was fun because although I've been living there for so long and I still see them on the side of the road or training at times, I've stepped back from the racing world. I'm not involved with the teams. I comment on their performances on television, but it's nice for me to be, and although a lot of them are still the older generation riders that were 7 or 8 years younger than me, and where we know a lot of the younger riders have kind of tend to choose Andorra versus Monaco. So it's nice for me to catch up with some of my friends from the Peloton face-to-face in a very chill environment, because we often have breakfast together in the changing rooms there in the restaurant. So everyone's just having breakfast with the wife, the kids. Some of them would just have friends around, and it's very, very pleasant.
Sounds like a nice day out. So if you're in Monaco ever on holiday or something and you get the chance to see that criterium, Tadej rides.
Tadej rides.
A few others.
Michael Matthews, Roglic, Sagan rode, Craig Anderson, Sorensen,
we're heading through Clan now, next town, before we go through to Herin with a population of 430 people, Alon Le Marais. Thanks for all your messages at Roach Nicholas and at Ant McCrossan on social media. Clarissa Pretorius knitting away and enjoying the racing. Thanks for joining us. Matt7562 suggests that cake and biscuits are the order of the day. Vincent Lubrano and Chris, thank you, and hoping that Arnaud Demar wins today's stage. Kay Stansbury wanting to know what's been our favourite or most memorable moment since we've been commentating on the Tour de France. What's your most memorable moment of commentating on the Tour de France?
Oh, let me think. The Tour de France is quite high in emotions.
Sivakov back at the team car.
I have to say, last year commentating on Bardet's win was quite emotional for me.
I think that's the most emotional I've seen you, yeah, for sure.
And then second emotion time behind the mic was Eddie Dunbar in the Vuelta. I grew up with Eddie since he was about 14. I had him in my own junior team when I had a junior team back then. And I was his first win. The second win, I was like, yes, second win. Now he's on 2 wins like me. I wasn't happy about that. But his win in the Vuelta was amazing. I was in tears. And I was in tears when I saw him after the protocol as well. We had a nice chat. But yeah, Bardet on the Tour de France, Bardet's win last year.
Yeah, Bardet for you last year was exciting. I could tell. You were on the edge of your seat and you were hoping that they'd make it to the finish. This is the Saclon Fort. Robin Ward has just said, if I can tell the race is not much going on when we're talking about socks for 20 minutes.
I mean, to be fair, there was a whole debate on rules and regulations. So the last 3 years, there was a lot said about socks height, and
we'd have been really good in the UCI meeting about socks.
Yes,
absolutely. It's an important subject. My favorite moment in the tour.
Funny enough, I know we need to stop talking about socks, but even the rules of the sock heights, the rules over and under your leg warmers. The other day I was listening to one of the interviews from the Women's Tour of Britain. Yeah. It was very funny for the women to give their point of view on style. And so apparently, according to them, if it's a white sock, you can put it over. And if it's a black sock, you has to go under. I would just put it under anyway. But
see, this is the thing. The women's peloton is different to the men's peloton in terms of style because they always wear white socks over their leg warmers. Always. They wouldn't consider putting them underneath. Whereas the men always have their socks underneath their leg warmers. They would not wear them on top.
Oh. So yeah, so socks are a lot more important in cycling than a lot of the rest of the apparel.
Absolutely. Maximilian Schachmann on the front. My favourite moment, the most memorable moment in the Tour de France commentary so far is, I think, when there's a couple. One is when Pogačar beat Roglic in the Tour and toppled. So Pogačar won that time trial and toppled Roglic, and it was a shock because you had the sudden realization that this race was going completely a different direction to what we thought it was going to do. So there's that moment. Also, for me, Biniam Girmay winning his first stage in the Tour last year, because that's not just a stage win, that's a moment in cycling history that goes beyond anything else. And I guess I got a third one, and that's just a biased one, and that's Mark Cavendish winning 35 stages, because I've known Mark since he was about 14 years of age. I can remember sitting on the back bumper of a car in a car park after Mark Cavendish won his first world title with Rob Hales on the track in Los Angeles, with Cavendish with shaved head, sitting on the back of a bumper of the car, and he'd just become world champion. I think it was in the south of England somewhere. It was some national race. He was then back to ride, having been a world champion on the track, and just sitting with this kid who had become a world champion, who was way before he became the famous rider he is now. That sticks in my head. This is Notre Dame as we go past. We're getting to that point, Nico, where this race is going to turn direction, aren't we? In a few kilometers. The team buses are now arriving at the finish line.
Yes, at about 70k to go, we'll turn right, and it'll be slightly more into a headwind. So this is also why the peloton is riding on the. This is why the peloton is really stuck to the left-hand side. So the wind is still coming quite strong from the right, and there's a reason why the teams are riding half the road. Obviously, there are two teams that are committing to this. I won't say chase, but to bringing this peloton towards Dunkirk. So you only want to shelter your teammates. So this is why they try and keep a little bit more to literally the other side of half the road, just to make sure there's those 7 or 8 riders who get protection from the wind coming from the left-hand side of the screen, so coming from their right.
Philipsen, green helmet on, green shorts, green top, green bike. Well, yesterday we saw the Italian sprinter involved in an altercation with Biniam Girmay. He's hoping he can win the stage today. He was the favourite for stage 1. Let's hear from Jonathan Milan.
Johnny, how are you this morning? Are you excited? Are you motivated? Are you hungry?
Yeah, I'm really excited. Tomorrow, another opportunity, another good stage for me, for my team. So we are really looking forward.
You have to remain focused, extremely focused, with possibilities of echelons today.
Yeah, tomorrow I think we will have a bit more of a headwind, but of course in the beginning we have to be really focused for the weather. I don't know, maybe we'll take some rain, so the bunch will be a bit nervous to stay in the front. It would be really important to stay in the front and avoid, hopefully no, but some crashes that can always happen. And yeah, there will be some parts where it could be a crosswind, but we will make it. We will try to make it as much as possible that we can to arrive in a bunch sprint.
Jonathan Milan, one of the favourites for today's race, one of the sprinters. So quietly spoken, and yet an absolute demon on a bike.
Yeah, like most sprinters. And again, you have to think that when you're 190 beats, obviously you don't think the same.
True. But he's also not very Italian in the way he speaks. Do you understand what I mean?
Very true. The attitude is not really what we're used to seeing the Italian sprinters.
No.
I think that's because he also comes from the very, very northern parts of Italy, which is close to Austria and Slovenia.
Much more chill.
Germanic.
Yes. Sylvain Dillier is now on front of this peloton, the former Swiss champion. He knows these roads exceptionally well. He's finished second in the Paris-Roubaix on a day where he was caught by Peter Sagan. He was in the breakaway all day. Sagan caught him, and he was the only rider to hold on and went all the way to the finish with Sagan and was beaten into second place from memory in 2018, I think it was. Long line of this peloton. The sun is beating down. Our helicopter shots just bring you the landscape and the riders as we make our way towards the conclusion of stage number 3. Still a fair amount of riding to go, but the pace is starting to increase a little bit compared to what it was in the early stages. We were averaging, 34 kilometers an hour for quite a while on today's stage. Things have changed a little, but not massively. Right now we're averaging 38. We've notched up just a tiny little bit. There's some cars that you might like.
De chevaux.
Yeah. Little display of them.
2 horsepower. We'll see loads of those on the roads of France over the next 3 weeks. It's funny, every time the Tour de France comes, I feel like it's like their yearly reunion. They kind of pop out all over France.
They do, don't they? But a car that's not produced anymore, you wonder if they're going to bring back a retro form like they've done with every other vehicle.
They have. They just brought out, Renault just on the AR5.
They have, yeah. I've seen one of those. They look pretty cool,
Yeah,
actually.
fully electric.
Yes. We'll see whether they decide to do the same thing. Gel's been taken on board. How does the nutrition change today compared to if they race this stage flat out? Does it change in any way? Or do they just take on the same amount of nutrition that had been specified?
So they will take the same amount of nutrition. They will still try and hit those numbers. What will happen is when they get into the bus, the meals after will be recalculated.
Really? In terms of size?
Yes. So you will, when you upload your file, the nutritionist or the coach will have your kilojoules or kilocalories that you have or used or produced, because when you talk about kilojoules, it's the energy that you've spent, and then they will calculate how many calories, so your intake during the day, and then they will start evaluating what you need to have later on in the night, especially for some teams like Picnic. They will have what they call personalized place. So the nutritionist will really focus that every rider has what the nutritionist has calculated. Not every team does personal plates. We know that Visma also do it, but most teams don't do it. But it was just to let you know that some of the teams actually calculate to the extent where they will say, okay, this is what you need, this is your metabolism, this is what you consumed. We need to think not only about refueling tonight, if you need to be refueling, but thinking about tomorrow and the day after next.
Is there no way in the Tour de France you can sneak a bar of chocolate in your bag?
It'd be melting, just from body heat.
No, not in your back pocket. In your bag, in the
bag,
bus.
sorry. I mean, you can put whatever you want in your suitcase, and I'm not going to give names, but I will admit, having had some chocolate in my room, nothing's better than a little piece of dark chocolate in the evening.
Yeah,
but you go for the morale, you go for the 90%.
Yes.
It tastes horrible. It's much better 70%. But for your health, it's like, 90% of cacao, so it's kind of healthier, less sugar. It's very symbolic.
But the team wouldn't check whether you had that or not. It would be a little secret stash.
Yes, but it's not the end of the world. We're talking about having a square of chocolate. We're not talking about ruining a diet. It was very actually, we talked about that last year on the rest day when the FDJ, the Groupama riders had a beer, I think it was, on the rest day.
Yes, and then
Visma had to go at them saying, this is why you're not winning the Tour de France. I kind of disagreed with Visma. I'm not encouraging alcohol, but I'm saying if you have one beer in a 3-week race, you're not really changing. If you do the whole calorie count over 3 weeks of racing and you add the 125 calories from a beer, you're not really disrupting anything.
No.
It's if you do it every night or every second night, you can't do it. But one light beer on the rest day is, and the mental, it's more about saying, okay, it's relaxing. It's not about anything else.
The new EF Education Easy Post bus has just gone past us. Apparently very nice inside. We need to get a tour of that. It's just parked outside our commentary box right now. as they make their way past. All the buses coming into park and getting ready for the arrival of today's stage. 106.7 kilometers now remain. And still, the team of Alpes and Dunkirk are the team who are having to do all the work. We're heading to Dunkirk, a stage finish host for the 24th time. The first time we've been here, though, since 2001, when it hosted the prologue. We'll see that later on today. The third stage last year into Torino was, of course, the stage I talked about earlier, where Biniam Girmay recorded the first win for Eritrea at the Tour de France. Just wanted to say hello to either VR Dwayne or Dwayne VR, or Dwayne Van Rensburg. So Dwayne, thank you very much for your message, and thanks for all your support. Alpecin, if they win today, so if Jasper Philipsen or Mathieu van der Poel, probably Jasper Philipsen, cross the line first as we go past the church of San Martin. Population of this little town in Anouilh is 10,890 people. If Jasper Philipsen manages to win this stage and Alpes and Dunkirk get a hat-trick of wins, it's rarely been seen this century, but it has happened, and 3 in a row. The first won 2012 this century. Mark Cavendish won for Sky into Brive-la-Gaillarde on the 18th stage. Bradley Wiggins won in Chartres on the 19th stage in 2012. And then the 20th stage, Mark Cavendish, or the 21st stage, I would imagine, Mark Cavendish.
Well, I remember in Brive-la-Gaillarde because by Sir Bradley Wiggins, who led Sir Cavendish.
Yes.
And I had lost the sprint. I saw the peloton coming in very fast, and I had to go early because it was lost or lost. And Wislan Sanchez was just about to take over. And then next thing, well, it wasn't Wislan Sanchez who was going to win the race, it was Mark Cavendish, who literally passes like a rover. And then next thing, well, it wasn't Wislan Sanchez who was going to win the race, it was Mark Cavendish, who literally passes like a rocket.
So he won that stage in 2012. The next time we had 3 wins in a row was Jonas Vingegaard for Jumbo-Visma at the time, the 18th stage in 2022. Christophe Laporte the next day, the 19th stage, and Wout van Aert the 20th stage into Rocamadour 22. Christophe Laporte the next day, the 19th stage, and Wout van Aert the 20th stage into Rocamadour in 2022. And then after that was in last year, Tadej Pogačar winning 3 in a row, which was 19, 20, and 21. The last time a team won the first 3 stages was in 1961. And that was when the Tour was run for national teams, and France won the first 3 stages. It was André Darrigade in Versailles, Jacques Anquetil on the same day in a half-stage time trial, and the following day with André Darrigade in Roubaix. So we're around this region as well. So that was the real historic implication of a team winning all first 3 stages. So back to 1961 we would have to go. So a massive historic moment if that indeed did happen. And it could happen. There's a big likelihood of that happening today.
I think so.
Also, there's such a link with the last time Mathieu van der Poel took the yellow jersey as well, isn't it? Because he did the same thing on stage 2 of the Tour de France in 2021 when he won the 2nd stage onto Mur de Bretagne and then took the yellow jersey as well. So exactly the same scenario. There's also a link back to the same day, 51 years ago, where Raymond Poulidor won his last ever Tour de France stage. There's a lot of little links going on here.
It's conspiracy.
Whilst Lawrence Rex gets his wheel changed, we're going to go on boards and inside the Tour de France. Alpes-in-de-Koning on the front, that onboard footage bringing you inside the Tour de France. Just showing you the finish of Mathieu van der Poel from yesterday's stage. Still Maximilian Schachmann contributing to the chase or the riding of Alpes-in-de-Koning. There's no chasing going on. There's no breakaway form today. A couple of riders went off the front early on, including Matthew Morich, but they decided that it was going to be a fruitless little escapade off the front of the peloton. It just demonstrates to you the way cycling has changed, because in the past, maybe 20 years ago, today would have been a day where you would have definitely had at least one rider in the breakaway, because the sponsors would have wanted the television time. Now things are much different in the way that sponsors approach the sponsorship of their teams and the way the teams approach the race as well. So we haven't got that breakaway. We've just got the riders riding for a bunch sprint, and that is what this is all about.
Yes, you're totally right to spot the difference, because if you think back a couple of years ago, they would actually release the amount of time per jersey spent on the TV, and you had teams who would actually, and it had to be a full, the sponsor had to be 3/4 of the way visible, it had to be recognizable, but you had a whole team of people looking and calculating how many minutes was your sponsor visible. And then at the end of the tour, they would do statistics and they would say, okay, your sponsor over the tour was seen for 46 hours. And if you had to pay for advertisement for that price, it would be around 60 to 80 million euros. And the teams would say, okay, I've invested 10 or 15. And in terms of advertisement over 3 weeks, it was worth a campaign of 60 or 70 million. And that's how they calculated things before. So sometimes if you weren't there to win the Tour de France, well, yes, it was good to be in the breakaway because literally you were seeing the sponsor was being seen on TV. And if you were alone, even better, because you were on TV literally just say it was Cofidis. Well, you'd have Cofidis on TV for 4 hours, literally just Cofidis, and then sometimes a glance of the team behind. And now, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but just the way things have happened is riders just prefer on teams are so focused around performance and not just about TV.
I wonder how much it would be. I need to ask one of the teams, like, how do they calculate the exposure now for a sponsor? Because at the end of the year, they must have to produce some massive report that tells the sponsor the amount of information, the amount of exposure they've had. And you can't just make it up because the sponsor could check.
So that's why I don't know if they did it in other races, but I just remember in the Tour because I've seen some of the ones in AG Tour when I was racing with AG Tour. That's already, well, 15 years ago. And they were doing it back then at the end of the Tour. It was like, okay, this is what we've done. And if AG Tour had to go and invest, this is what it would, in advertisement, this is what it would cost them. And this is why cycling made sense to a lot of sponsors because they were getting 70 to 80 million. If I remember back then, those numbers were probably right. On a 10 to 12 million sponsorship. And that's just with the Tour. Obviously, the Tour gives a lot more visibility than any other race on the planet, and by far.
But it also comes down to what territories they want to sponsor in and how much exposure they want.
True.
So there'll be sponsors who look at cycling and decide they don't want to sponsor because they've decided their key territory is, I don't know, not the Netherlands because they would always get exposure there, but they might want massive exposure in Slovenia, for example.
True, and you also do that with recruiting sometimes. There were teams who will say, okay, today, I remember when I was at Sunweb, when the team was based in Germany, but the sponsor was Dutch, they were looking for a lot more German riders because they were trying Sunweb was trying to go into this German market. So there are strategies also, not only with going to certain races or not, but also in your recruitment.
We're inside the magic 100 kilometers to go for Canadian fans. Michael Woods is sitting there in the group of riders. Things seem to have speeded up all of a sudden. The wind coming from the right-hand side.
Yeah, they're coming close to that right-hand third. There's going to be a little bit more in a headwind, but once again, every time there's a change of direction, we still have about 20 kilometers before we change direction, but every time there's a slight change of direction, it's a reflex. You just get into position just in case.
We've also got the intermediate sprint coming up, and that is with 60.1 kilometers of racing to go. Earlier this morning, Julien Alaphilippe had his son with him onto the podium to be presented. So a little visitor. And yet again, there's loads of talk about Remco Evenepoel and where he's going to be riding next season. The rumours have started yet again.
Is that 3 years now that they've started?
In the middle of the Tour, well, not even in the middle of the Tour de France. 2 days in, and already the conversation is Remco going to go to Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, Ineos, or another team? There was one point where all the rumours were that Remco had already signed for Ineos about 2 years ago and was already on his way there, but it's never come to fruition, has it?
No, and the same rumour was there also in Bora.
Yeah.
Both being in the interest of Specialized, and yes. I've heard rumours from Bora that they kind of think they saw Remco's bike somewhere in the camp.
But he's not gone there at all.
No, he's not gone there at all.
No. And then there's a whole rumour, and it's starting to become a little bit closer, isn't it? About the fact that Total Energy we're going to be merging with Ineos Grenadiers and bringing that sponsorship to Ineos. The reason why is Jim Radcliffe, who's the owner of the Ineos Grenadiers team, has decided to cap his sponsorship because, of course, he's bought Man United, which right now is a bit of a money pit. He's stopped his sponsorship of Ben Ainsley's sailing team.
Trying to sell Nice.
Trying to sell the Nice football team. And so he's capped it and needs a sponsor. And Just a problem here for the German champion, stopping at the side of the road. And Ineos Grenadiers are actively looking for sponsors for the team. They've done some deals. They've got Adidas as a new clothing sponsor, not for the race clothing, but for their off-bike clothing. So you'll see everyone wearing Adidas. And when I go onto a certain business social media, I get served ads all the time to talk to Ineos about being a sponsor of the team.
Get 30 million?
I don't have a spare 30 million. So that comes up all the time. And they're clearly looking really actively for a sponsor. And now the talk is, and the talk has been for ages, Total Energy. And now that's happening, isn't it? Because Total Energy is all over the bikes, not the bikes, the buses, the vehicles, the kit, and everything. It's just been added as a white area on the kit. And that's because Jim Radcliffe and Ineos have massive business with Total Energy. And I understand, I might be wrong about this, but I don't think I am, that they've bought one of the Total Energy's businesses in France. And therefore, it makes sense that the team now becomes submerged and becomes Ineos Grenadiers or Ineos Total or whatever it becomes. And someone asked me this question yesterday about why a Total Energy on the kit of Total Energy and on the kit of Ineos.
And can you do it legally or not?
Well, Red Bull are on Tudor, aren't they?
They are, and also on Bernard's helmet.
Yeah, so you can't be a naming sponsor, but you might be putting quite a lot of money in, but you can only be the naming sponsor of one team, which is why, cleverly, Ineos Grenadiers is just Ineos Grenadiers. And I checked it before the Tour de France.
And there's a high chance that name will change over the winter.
Absolutely.
And the kit might go white instead of red.
Yeah, so it will become Ineos Total or wherever it becomes. And I also asked the UCI how they're getting away with it, and they're not going to comment about that because they don't want to. They want the teams to survive and be there, because potentially you can lose Total, you can lose Arkea B&B hotels as teams over this winter, which we don't want to happen, and they don't want to happen. And for French cycling, that's a disaster.
Yeah, that would be 60 professional riders.
Which would be...
Plus all the rest, because a lot of them have Devos and women's team as well.
So there's lots of discussions going on about teams and sponsors and where things might go and where Remco ends up. Now, the whole link with the Remco and Total Energy was the whole idea that Remco would go to Ineos because Ineos is rumoured at one point to be swapping Pinarello for Specialized. However, everyone understands now that Pinarello are about to re-sign with Ineos as their bike manufacturer for since the team became Team Sky. So if that happens, it's likely that that's not going to be the case, that he's going to go there because of Specialized. Because the rumor was quite strong in that Tom Pidcock has gone to Q36.5, whose owner owns Pinarello, and therefore Pidcock would take Pinarello to Q36.5. But that might not happen either. It's all go, isn't it?
It's all go at this time of the year. Riders, sponsor changes, merges.
The rumors are going around, and all the agents are here, aren't they?
Yeah, they were here at the start of the tour, and
Definitely.
they had a massive rider agent meeting as well.
93 kilometers to go. Let's hear now for New Zealand fans about a rider who's making his debut, Lawrence Pithie. Let's hear all about him now.
Yeah, Mum sent me a photo of this booklet, and it said like long-term goals, and it was ride the Tour de France and go to the Olympics. So I guess back then I thought I could be professional if those were my goals. I was mostly a runner, and then I got an injury, and so I started cycling, and I didn't really enjoy it at the start, to be honest. I came to Europe for the first time in 2019 on the track. It's a big culture shock. So I've sort of found myself in more of a classics role. I guess I've got a fast finish. Yeah, very unfamiliar territory for me, but I think I adapted fairly well. The riders there took me under their wing a little bit and helped me progress. And yeah, of course, it came with setbacks and struggles, but yeah, it was the perfect place for me to grow and start my professional career. I guess you could say it's a new chapter. It's a step up here. I've really came here looking to find myself in more professional way. Super exciting, also super scary. Like you see the speeds everyone's going now and how hard the racing is, these grueling mountain stages. A good tour for me would be just the experience and helping my teammates. I think it would be too ambitious to go there with big goals.
Pithie!
The dream would be to win a stage of the Tour de France. I think that's every professional cyclist's dream.
A nice portrait of the Kiwi in the Tour. At one point, it was going to be, the thought was that Finn Fisher-Black and Lawrence were both going to be together in the Tour de France. You saw the photo there of the two of them as kids racing together, but it's only him who made the squad. 91 kilometers of racing to go. He's the sort of rider who could snag a stage win out of a smaller group of riders.
Yes, definitely. Although he's still very young, he's definitely worth his place in the Tour de France. And you only speak, you see he's very calm, composed, quite mature already for a young age. And I do hope that he pulls some kind of results over the next 3 weeks.
Well, let's see how he does. I'm sure it's been a little bit of a shock, like it is for some riders, to come into the Tour de France and just find their feet in the first place, in the first few days of racing. Maybe today is one of those days where you find your feet suddenly because you're not hanging on for dear life for the whole few hours that we're racing.
Yeah, today it's a bit more of a normal day. I mean, it's riding like if we'd be riding somewhere else. Speed isn't too high. It's not risk-taking. You can see the wind still coming from the right. Another 20 kilometers before we turned right, we will go straight into a headwind. And then instead of seeing this long bunch like we've seen for now, the bunch will be a lot more compact, using most of the road.
We are 30 kilometers from Isberg, which is where the intermediate sprint is going to be. Whilst we've got time, why don't we think about dinner, because it's going to be a long time till we get dinner, but we might as well dream of it and enjoy it. Nico's meal of the day and cake of the day.
Well, we haven't gone too far geographically over the last 3 days. So I had to work very, very hard to find something that I hadn't put in today's meal, just because Dunkirk was so close to Lille and so close to where we were yesterday in Boulogne. It's the same part of the Northern Sea and the English Channel, so we're going to go again with fish. And once again, where we are here in Dunkirk, it's all about smoked fish. We had a very similar fish yesterday, I think it was, in Boulogne-sur-Mer, and I had the name of the port where you had to go and do it. But apparently, the Dunkirk claims that it has the best smoked fish.
It does.
Well, that's what they claim.
Yeah, they do. No, yeah, they do claim.
Oh, they do claim, yeah.
I don't think it's true necessarily, but that's what they think.
They also claim that they had the best moule frite.
Do they?
Yeah.
That might be the case.
That might be the case. And in the moule frite, you can or have it with cream or a little bit of white wine in it when you cook it in the pot. The other one, I'm going to struggle pronouncing this, but it's pot jolek. And that is glazed meat, cabbage, salad stew with fries.
With fries. Everything's with fries.
Everything for fries. And you can have it hot in the winter, but you could also have it cold.
Cold.
Yeah. So you cook it and let it settle, and you have your stew. So a bit more like a cold soup, but with your chunks of fish, cabbage, salad, carrots. And it's kind of a jellyish meat as well. It's not just your normal beef like you'd have in a...
You're not selling that to me.
No, I have to say the photos were not appetizing at all. Like I'm pretty adventurous in most regions that we travel, and I try some of the meals that I'll tell during the day on the evening. And then the other one is a funny name. It's called Waterzooi. And that's another stew, and that has cream in it, obviously, lots of cream here, carrots, broccoli, and instead of being fish, a lot of people here would have it with chicken.
Okay.
I couldn't find a different dessert than the tarte soup, which I've told
So we have to
days
go
ago.
back with the same cake.
Same cake.
Okay.
We're still waiting on Luis to bring yours.
Yeah, he hasn't come up with the goods at all yet.
But this morning at breakfast, they had, remember the brioche I told you 2 days ago with the little sugar on top?
Yes.
They were at breakfast this morning.
I didn't notice those. Did you have them?
I had, and moreover, one dessert that I forgot to talk about is the gaufres, the waffles. So they're not the little big ones like we can have the idea in Belgium. These ones are almost like a biscuit. They're very, very thin, and they're hard. They're not as soft as the normal Belgian waffle or the waffles that we had in Lille, which was like one of the spongy ones. This is like a little hard biscuit.
I'm told that our team radio team, and those of you watching when we got our little team radio things coming up on the screen, we have a team of ex-pro riders who deal with that. So Luis Angelmarte, who rode for Cofidis and Euskaltel, and a number of other teams. Ava Berman, who rode for Bowles Dolmans, now ST Works. And Caroline Canuel, the Canadian rider who was an Olympian and rode for ST Works as well for so many years. Those three choose all the clips, and then they go to Emma and Andy, who decide what goes on screen. They apparently, now, see, this is not being shared around, so we look at this land art. That's a good one with the tractors.
Yeah.
That's about an 8 out of 10, you reckon?
I like the way they went for the diagonal sloping tube.
Yep. Very different. Looks like the sword of Miguel Indurain. So these are not being shared around, but they've got emergency Belgian waffles this afternoon. They say teamwork is everything.
Yeah, we're left out.
We are. Well, Nico, I know you've inspired many people to cook mule frites.
And from tomorrow, because today, well, actually might from today, but I think I'll post every night on one of the stories the couple of names. I won't give the whole recipes, but I'll put the names so you can go and look at them on your search.
Good idea, because then everyone can follow and can get the information that you need if you just want to, I don't know, cook dinner one day behind or something like that during the race. Why not?
Yeah, I had the idea. Yeah, I wanted to do it the other day, and I was like, and then yesterday I was like, oh, I missed your meal yesterday. Where can I find it? Obviously, we don't have a set time when this kind of comes along, is when the race slows down. So I thought, you know what? Well, not everyone's in front of the TV all day trying to wait for my meal report, although you should. But I thought every day I'll put on social media the little recap of my little meal, so you can go and look it up then on the internet.
Great stuff.
And some of the words are just unpronounceable, especially in this region where I'm not very familiar with.
Yeah. An interesting menu then. Smoked fish, mule frite. Yeah. Mule frite sounds the most appealing.
Yeah, I have to say, and the smoked fish.
Yes. Just to go back a moment ago, you just saw the Statue of Liberty, which was installed in this area in 1926, a war memorial by a replica of Bartholdi's work, welcoming travellers, of course, to New York's harbour. It commemorates the 26 children from Cambronne who died for France in the First World War, and it was restored in 2014, so it has a very significant reason for being there. It's a bronze replica. It measures 2.9 meters and weighs 550 kilograms. This is the Moulin de Boulogne, a windmill, built in the 13th century, rebuilt in the 19th century. There's evidence of a windmill always being there in that village, and it is near this old mill that the Robert brothers landed their first hot air balloon from the Jardin de Tuileries in Paris. narrowly avoiding the Mills Wings on the 19th of September 1784. From then on, this hill was known as the Ballon District. The tower itself has got an external diameter of 9.2 meters and is built in red bars with the traditional red bricks. It is on a ridge, 18.8 meters high, and the wings have a span of 24.6 meters. Of course, if you know the story, the Robert brothers, if we just turn right, no, we've got a little bit of time to go. The Robert brothers were two brothers, Anne-Jeanne Robert and Nicolas Louis Robert, alias Marie-Noël Robert, the engineers and balloonists who, together with Professor Jacques Charles, built the first hydrogen gas balloon, which flew from the center of Paris on the 27th of August, 1783, and landed nearby the windmill, having flown from Paris and landing on the 19th September 1784 on a separate flight that they took. That was a long old journey, wasn't it? From Paris to here. Wow.
And especially if they had a headwind like today.
Yeah, exactly.
Might have.
I take it was a tailwind, I would imagine. 45 kilometers an hour, things are speeding up. We are 24 kilometers now from the intermediate sprint. For those of you just joining us, this has been a bit of a trudge across the north of France. We've had no major attacks, a couple of little bits of fun off the front, but it's nothing to talk of. But whilst we think that this stage has been slow, to put it in perspective, this stage is nearly 40 kilometers an hour. So it's not that slow.
It's slowish.
Yes. But it's
I would
not.
have expected, if it was a normal stage with the wind in a different direction, it'd probably be around 44. And I think actually the Tour de France book expected it to be around 44.
Julian Alaphilippe up towards the front. What speed would you expect it to be?
Well, I just checked the book, and the Tour expected it between 44 and 46 today.
Nowhere near.
No.
And it's not going to be by the end, is it?
So dinner's going to be later than I even thought.
Very late.
We have a bit of a drive tonight.
We were supposed to be driving to Rouen and having dinner in Rouen, but do you imagine we're going to get there before 10 o'clock tonight? I don't know. I'm not so sure.
You could just see now everyone's getting focused again. They just had pointed out on the book that we're going to change direction. So all the GC teams are moving up. All the sprinters teams are moving up. Again, we are going to hit a headwind, but it's just in case you want to stay out of trouble. There's Julian Alaphilippe. It's hard to recognize the new jersey of the Groupama United. It's a different tone of blue.
It's a totally different tone of blue. And that red sleeve. They've gone very block colours, haven't they? It reminds me of the women's team of Sarah Tizet WNT. It's basically their kit. I noticed on the team of Wiesmann Lisa bike, lots more sponsors have been added to that team for this Tour de France, and old sponsors of previous incarnations. So they've got Rabobank down the side, Nike, and then they've got on their sleeves Skill.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice Skill.
Yeah, so Skill goes back all the way to Sean Kelly.
True. Then Skill's Shimano team, which was now the Picnic team.
Absolutely. Speed is picking up. Suddenly there's a little bit more urgency in this peloton. Nico, at what time do we turn, at what kilometer do we turn this right-hand turn towards the intermediate sprint?
Well, soon enough. I'd pointed out around kilometer 75 to go.
We're going to take a little look at where we are. We're going through Bethune. For those of you still following and trying to work out where we are. The town hall you can see in the front there from the 20th century. Art Deco. Nico, there's the wind direction. This is the speed of the wind, which is increasing.
which is slightly higher. It was 25, now close to 30. And there's one of the turns going right, but it's not the turn. But you could just see now that they're going in this diagonal all the way till the sprint, and they'll keep it, and then they will go full on into a headwind after the sprint, as you can see just now. So there's a few changes. It will go from 3/4 of the side, as you can just see now, perfect shot there with the graph, where you could see how the wind will go from 3/4 side wind to block headwind, 3/4 side wind to block headwind. It does like a couple of steps, doesn't it? It doesn't go into one direction. You kind of go 3/4 headwind, turn left, side wind, turn right, go into the headwind. But the whole final will be a block headwind. But again, because we've seen how aggressive and how important it is to be in the front, all the teams drag race to be in the front. And we are about 20 kilometers from the intermediate sprint.
But the pace is starting to ratchet up just bit by bit, purely by that race to be in the right position. You've got a long, long tail on the peloton now as we make our way through this town. The next town on the horizon is Anezan, and then Vendôme-le-Bethune into Choc and into Bruay-la-Boursière as we head towards its intermediate sprint. Over a little bit of cobbles, which will wake the legs up a little bit.
And they're not gold anymore, actually, the number of the... That was the most combative rider of yesterday, wasn't it? Bruno Amirai?
Yes.
And it looked like they were grey.
We'll check that in a minute, see what numbers he's wearing. Up at the front, the yellow jersey is Mathieu van der Poel, the green jersey today, Jasper Philipsen, the white jersey is Kevin Vorkelaan, and the King of the Mountains, Tadej Pogačar. Pogačar's a lot harder to pick out so quickly, but he's sitting in behind Niels Pollitt at this moment in the peloton. Marc Soler is the rider who's just shifting on, making sure he's absolutely alongside the team of Alpecin de Koning. And there's some discussion going on between Soler and Sylvain Dillier as to what's going on at the front of this peloton. But the drag race has commenced. 19 kilometers to the intermediate sprint. Damien Touz of the team of Cofidis enjoying his birthday in this peloton today. 182 riders have started wall. They didn't expect that as they go right and left, and a number of riders completely out of position having gone right. That was definitely not the right way to go, but they had no choice because it suddenly split. And there wasn't one of those signs standing really tall to demonstrate to the riders that there was a bit of a turn coming up. That's why you have to be vigilant the entire stage, because you can suddenly hit a bit of road furniture and have a major problem. Here at the back, riders making their way back into the peloton. Oh, that was a little bit tight. Alberto Dainese. He's got to get himself into the race convoy. He's one of the riders who wants to take part in a final sprint today. Another problem on the right-hand side for one of the Lotto riders. Lennart van Etvelt is back in the peloton today after that big crash of yesterday, and he seems to be okay. The Jayco Alula car comes up. Dainese just clicks his way through the gears. He's having to do this on his own. Just outside our commentary box window is the mascot of the yellow jersey, the lion, who is sprinting up and down the race finish, high-fiving which will be taking part in that, I guess. I haven't got into it in loads of detail. They are berthed, not parked, in that marina. The Duchess Anne was there this morning as we get a chance to see Jonas Vingegaard in that red and white helmet as he pedals away behind his team with Victor Campenaerts just behind him, maintaining position. Pollitt over there to the left-hand side in the colours of UAE with those new helmets that they're wearing today. Pollitt just shaking their head a little bit, maybe just taking a bit of tension out of that neck, because your neck after so many kilometers of racing must get sore as De Lee comes back into the peloton again.
Well, especially when you're in that seated position all day I mentioned it a bit yesterday about, well, when the riders were stretching the legs, and when you're on the rolling road, you get out of the saddle a lot more often. On stages like today, you only get out of the saddle when you're coming out of a corner to get a bit of speed. So it's just nice to get that tension off the neck, the lower back, stretch yourself a little bit, make yourself comfortable for the next part of the race. I'll be hitting that right turn, well, the first one of the right turns in about 3 to 4 kilometers when we come out of this town.
I wanted to touch on something you talked about last night when we were chatting about the stage. And I noticed earlier on when we were riding out and it was pouring with rain and riders were kind of taking jackets off and changing and putting a gilet on. And there was an Arkea rider at the front who was really struggling with his gilet to get it over his shoulder. And it looked like he just couldn't sit up. And you said something interesting last night, which was that when you look at the riders now, some of them can't sit up in the saddle and take their hands off the bars as easily as you always used to, because their positions are so extreme on these bikes.
Yes, a lot of the positioning has changed, and when you have such a forward saddle, so a low setback, and then a lot of the riders have the cleats further down on the shoe, it really changes your balance. And as we have team radio.
Okay guys, we have to really focus to be in position for kilometer 103. Now we know it can be open with big crossings.
Picnic post NL, thinking about what is coming up, and that is in around about a kilometre's time. They're just about there right now for the possibility of these trees finishing and the road starting to open up before we take this turn into the headwind. Yes, you were just saying it's more difficult for the riders, because I noticed the Arkea rider couldn't sit up and put his gilet on like you would have seen in the past, because things were set back so much. It was like an armchair, wasn't it? You just sat back, you sat right back over the back of the saddle, over the back of the bike, put your gilet on, no problem at all. Now it's much harder.
It's much harder, and like I said, this whole piston way of pedaling compared to the kind of more pedaling stroke, obviously they do all the maths now, and it seems to be a lot more efficient than the kind of round circle, because you don't recruit to your calves as much, and apparently your calves are one of the high energy consuming muscles but a low efficiency muscle. So if you look at the legs of the riders, a lot of the riders do not have those famous cyclist calves like decades ago.
Yeah, because before it was all about the calf muscle. You needed to have really strong calves.
I was proud of my calves. I was like, worked hard to have calves. Now they work to get rid of them. Oh, look.
Lawrence Rex having a problem. Is he okay? He had a problem earlier.
He stopped earlier on, yeah.
He's not looking like things are going well here. I thought it was a bike change, but it...
Well, he had a bike change for sure. Well, no, he had a wheel change.
Is he sick? He's out the back now, and he's not really moving well, considering this is a relatively sedate stage of the Tour de France. Now there is much more focus, though, going on. Luc Plapp there with the yellow glasses on, right in the middle. Sylvain Dillier with the Swiss cross there on his sleeves. Movistar move up, all of their riders. Niels Pollitt heads the UAE Team Emirates squad. Lawrence Rex, has he got another puncture? Yes, he has. So it's not sickness. He's got a rear wheel puncture. There are a lot of punctures today.
I mean, the last 3 days, actually. Good to see him get off the bike. It just makes life so easier for the mechanic, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. He's pretty chilled out about it today, isn't he?
Well, he knows we're going to hit the wind, and yes, at the front of the peloton, there's always two races in one. There's always the one where, like Matt Winston, say, okay, guys, we're going to turn right. It's full on crosswind. And as most of the teams have had the same information, and actually the riders are doing what Matt Winston has ordered them to do, move up, stay out of trouble.
Yeah, straight to the front for Picnic Post NL, so they're listening to their radio. Lawrence Rex on his way, 25 years of age, winner of Le Samin and 6th in the Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. He was also 9th place in the Paris-Roubaix. A rider who knows this region very well, so he just looks chilled out. He's not worried at all. See the flags, though.
Yeah, well, they're coming from the right, so it should be, well, three-quarter... There is wind, that's for sure, 31 kilometers per hour.
That's pretty strong now, isn't it?
But just see the difference between the front and the back, where the rest of the Melissa bike team are just, I want to say, chilling. Van Aert is not even bothered, because he understands that once we get around the turn, yes, it might stretch for him to do, but no one is going to spit it in the crosswind, 80k to go, or 70k to go.
The number 152 is supposed to be gold. And it's kind of gold, but it's really hard to make gold, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It was easier when they were red. I guess you'd go for bronze or brown. So this is where you see the big difference between the riders who are, well, don't want to risk anything, so they're trying to get into position. Sports directors telling the riders there's a bottle in the middle there. I mean, the guy aren't happy that the BRK rider dropped the bottle in the middle of the peloton.
That's always very dangerous, isn't it? Because a solid bottle with water and fluid in it, you can crash.
You can crash, yeah. And often the crashes are from the riders who are trying to jump them, and they realize they don't jump them, and the wheel actually slips on top of it rather than actually literally just explode the bottle.
Because most bottles now are designed to explode when you hit them, aren't they?
Well, they're not designed to explode if you hit them. They're just made of lighter material because of the a lot of the stuff is eco-friendly. They're all biodegradable materials, so it makes them a lot more fragile, actually.
72 kilometers to go. Thanks for joining us. Things are starting to get closer now to Dunkirk for this race finish. We are 12 kilometers from the green jersey sprint. That's the first little bit of action before we then head to Montcassel for the only climb of today's stage. That climb, 2.3 kilometers, so we'll reach it with 33.2 kilometers. We've just hit the first 500 kilometers of this year's race. Only 6 times more of that, and we'll be in Paris. It will be amazing how quickly that time goes. Tadej Pogačar is stopping at the side of the road, and that means that the action's probably going to calm right down now. Do they automatically stop for Pogačar, or will they just continue?
Continue.
Okay, B&B hotels at the front as well now.
And the pace has gone up, 49k per hour. And the wind is still 3/4 headwind. You could just see there the flags. And this is why Pogačar decided that, okay, it's safe. It's a block headwind. Nothing's going to happen. And you could see a lot of other riders there stopping in the back. So again, sometimes we talk about radios, we talk about stress for nothing. Well, that was one of the moments. And this is why the debate is always going about, oh, if we didn't have any radios, would the riders be all stressed out when they turn right into a block headwind? When Matt Winston said, well, maybe it's a 3/4 headwind, be careful, because there's always this in case of. And to be honest, when I was a rider, I'd much rather be ready just in case and then realize that there's nothing going to happen.
Have to worry.
Rather than be on the back foot. So that's good de-essing and puts a bit sharp. But like I said, you go through the corner, you realize nothing's happening, while you pull over and you can relax for another few minutes.
This is the keep of La Boussière. You can constructed probably as early as the 12th century, was a secondary residence of the Countess Mao in the 14th century. One of the favourites for today's stage is Tim Merlier. Let's hear from him.
How did you recover from yesterday? Because that has an incidence on today, or not really?
Well, it was already a hard 2 stages. The pacing was high, really stressful. So today, I think with the wind, it will be again a bit stressful, but okay, relax. Feel for the moment still okay. So hopefully next day is also.
It should be a headwind sprint. What difference does that make?
Makes it even more difficult. Timing will be really important. So hopefully, I'm in the right position.
Tim Merlier, one of the favourites for today's stage, 69.5 kilometres of racing now remain. The sprint is 9 kilometres away. We were talking earlier on about the ownership of teams and the fact that Ineos are now looking for sponsors, and they're owned by Jim Ratcliffe. There was a change in ownership of one of the teams today, and that was the team of Decathlon Agi Désert Le Mondial. They've transitioned their ownership ahead of the 2026 season. So Decathlon and Agi Désert announced a change in their shareholding structure of the company that owns the team, France Cyclisme, the legal entity of the team. So from the end of 2025, Decathlon, the business, will become the sole owner of the team, succeeding Agi Désert Le Mondial. So things are changing. There's been a long-term strategic intention to deepen the involvement of Decathlon in the cycling sport at the very highest level. They want to help shape the future of the sport, not just be a presenting sponsor. They're proud of the journey shared with Agi Désert Le Mondial, and we thank them for their dedication and commitment to the team for the past 28 years. A new chapter is now opening, fueled by a bold ambition to win, and we can't wait together to shape the team. So it sounds to me, because Agi Désert said this, the managing director of Agi Désert Le Mondial said it's with profound emotion shared by Agi Désert Le Mondial employees and all the members of the board that we transfer the ownership of our cycling team to Decathlon. We've had a shared journey of nearly 30 years. We couldn't have hoped for a better partner to carry forward the team's legacy and bring it to new heights. Over the last 2 years, we've been able to gauge Decathlon's commitment, expertise, and ability to be more than just a sponsor. Like us, they passionately cheer at each race. We take great pride in our contribution as the team's long-standing partner, and say thank you to the riders, the staff, and the partners who have contributed to the outstanding success of the team. So moving forward, the team will be Decathlon. It sounds like Agi Désert Le Mondial is gone from the team completely, which is the end of 30 years of that naming of that team. There's just a quick team radio.
Everybody want to be in front, and so now you should also feel the pressure from GC team. So we do a really good job, guys, today. Really good. It's nice to see. Compliments, but still keep the fight in, keep the focus. Focus on Bini. But good job, guys.
Intermarché's team radio is very kind to its riders.
It's good motivation. I think it's, as a sports director, it's very hard to be hard on your riders, but you also need to motivate them, to make them believe they can do it, to back them up. It's a whole team, it's management. You cannot be soft all the time. You cannot be gentle all the time. You also need to, remind riders that they're there to do a job, and when they're not doing it right, the management needs to be hard. But when everything is being done right, it's also nice to know that things are being done right. And that's the group coming back now from the from natural break, letting all the cars pass.
6.9 kilometers to go to the sprint. I just want to touch on Decathlon and as you desire Le Mondial, a team that you rode for a lot of your career. That is
4
the
years.
end of an era. It
is. I was just about going to say that. And not only because a team is changing name, but because, again, the ownership, but the strategy. AG Tour was always renowned to be, and Vincent Lavenue always said it was like a family team, and you run it like a family business. And you run it very well like a family business. But unfortunately, today in modern cycling, you cannot be a family business anymore. You need to be a big international structure. And this is what Decathlon is going to do. They're going to bring this team to another level. And not saying that AG Tour was not a high-level team. They've won stages in Tour de France. They've wore the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. It was a very successful French team, and I was very proud of that team. And they were one of the first teams that really backed me into my GC career and gave me a chance to do that at a very young age. And I appreciate, and I still have some close friendship with the team and some of the riders and some of the staff still to date. But yes, it is a stop. We won't hear the name AG Tour now anymore, and that was there for 30 years. And again, the team is just going to change a whole strategy where now it's going to step up. We've announced, they've talked about maybe joining in. There was rumors of another sponsor coming in and going to be one of the big super teams of modern cycling.
Well, the rumor today is that the team's budget has already been increased to 40 million euros.
And if you think about it, back in 2012 when I left, it was 12 million. It was still one of the biggest ones in France, because if you look at, I think Cofidis was around 10, 12, but at the time you had Boulangère or Europcar, and they were more around 7 or 8.
So now, if that rumor is true, 40 million euros will be a budget which equips them to be a super team.
So maybe Remco's going there, you never know.
Maybe
that's the type of budget you can afford to have a 5 million euro rider.
Absolutely. And what other riders will go there with a budget of 40 million euros?
And we spoke about it the other day. I was speaking to some of my friends who are working on the team, and even the staff now has been obliged to take English courses if they wanted to stay on the team.
So it's going to become international, and Decathlon is an international business. You talked about where it was headquartered earlier on in the race, but now they are an international brand that are going to really push forward cycling, which is really good news because they're developing product, they're developing clothing, but they clearly don't just want to be a naming sponsor. They want to own the team and they want to make cycling bigger.
True. And if you think about, 15 years ago, they were already sponsors in some of the cycling teams. They sponsored, Cofidis on their bikes. Well, I don't think they did the bikes at Cofidis at the time. They did the clothing, because I remember when I was stagiaire in 2004, I had all Decathlon clothing. But a couple of years after that, they sponsored AG Tour. When AG Tour went before the World Tour, they sponsored AG Tour with the bikes. And then that stopped actually the year I went to the team. They had gone to BH at the time. And as you can see with the flags, it's a block headwind. And now it's all the battle about, the drag racing. Everyone's in position. We're only about 4 kilometers away from the intermediate sprints.
Remind us of the green jersey now, because this is our first bit of action of the day.
Well, the rider who is going to pass the line today will get 20 points. It will be 15 riders. So it will go 20, 15th rider will get 1 point. The accumulation of points at the intermediate sprint plus at the end of the stage gives you the one with the highest points gets to wear the green jersey. Depending on the stage, at the finish, there is different point systems. If it's a mountain stage, there is less points available than if it's a sprinter stage.
Timing's going to be everything in this sprint, isn't it?
Yes, and it's going to be an extremely fast run-in. There's a couple of turns, about 1.5 kilometers to go. You go over a bridge. It's a little bit tricky, but the last 1.5 kilometers is wide. But you're going to have to make a choice on your positioning, what side of the road you want to go, because there's a proper chicane between 500 meters. You go into sweeping left, 200 meters of sweeping right, and then in the last 100 meters, another sweeping left. So you can't really cut the line at 500 meters to go. You could do it maybe 2K to go, but not at 500 meters to go. So it'll be very interesting to see what side of the road and close to the barrier the sprinters team will choose to go for.
Van der Poel coming back, throws a bottle to some fans at the side of the road, which he's allowed to do. Much more speed in this peloton now as he races back in the yellow jersey as the race leader of the Tour de France. There is Tadej Pogačar wearing number 1, sitting towards the back, being dragged along now because he's the headwind will shelter him as the further back he sits. Brian Cocker coming up towards the front. He's twice finished 3rd in the green jersey competition. Ivan Romero moves up in the Spanish champions colours on the far right-hand side. A little bit of road furniture coming up now. Kevin Vauclain in the white jersey pointing that out to the rest of the riders. But it's Luke Plapp on the front. Luke Durbridge, the Australian champion, in 2nd place. Arkea getting ready to lead out Arnaud Demar into this sprint. And Bahrain Victorious moving up as well as Camel Gradek tries to move their sprinter Phil Bauhaus into position for this intermediate sprint. As Nico said, 20 points on offer at this intermediate sprint. And the peloton racing now at 45 kilometers an hour. Van der Poel moving up on the left-hand side. Needs to be a little bit closer to the front to look after Jasper Philipsen today.
And they're going to be able to practice their sprint in the headwind and the timing. It's block headwind at the moment, 2 kilometers to go to the sprint. Ivan Milan. Sorry, they were just pushing each other out a little bit there on the right.
On the front, it's Quinn Simmons, followed by Tom Scoynes. Milan is not too far behind. Arnold De Lee hasn't really taken part in these intermediate sprints yet. He's a bit further back and losing a little bit of space. Dylan Groenewegen is up there. Only about 1.5 kilometers now to the intermediate sprint. You'll notice that Jake Stewart is on this prototype bike today. Let's see if he unleashes it, because in a headwind, that bike is going to be faster than anything. The sprint starts. Quinn Simmons ups the tempo. Right-hand turn coming up. The team of Lidl Trek are going to have full control at the front as Quinn Simmons and Tom Scoynes are the 2 riders at the front. Jonathan Milan sits 4th wheel. Mathieu van der Poel turns around and checks to see where Philipsen is, and the answer is he's not there yet. Intermarché get ready to unleash Biniam Girmay. We are 1 kilometer, just inside 1 kilometer to go. Simmons hands over to Tom Scoynes and goes to the left-hand side of the road, the right-hand side. Intermarché leading out, Biniam Girmay. There's the points on the right-hand side. Philipsen's now got himself into a better position. Van der Poel sneaked back in the line. Soren Varenskold is up there for the team of Uno X Mobility. And Brian Cockard decides to go on the right-hand side, looks for a wheel, puts himself in the wind way too early. And the sprint now starts on the left-hand side as Philipsen's lead-out train tried to bring him up onto the wheel of Jonathan Milan. Caden Groves is the rider who's trying to lead him out. Girmay is a bit... Oh! Whoa, whoa, whoa. Philipsen crashes. The green jersey is down. Jonathan Milan goes through now. He wins the sprint. But behind, we hope that Jasper Philipsen is okay. Oh, that's not good news.
Hard crash there. He looks in lots and lots of pain.
From joy to despair in the flash of a second. Philipsen has lost nearly the entire green jersey off his back. He's not in good shape. There's also another crash at the side of the road here. But the whole Alpecin-de-Koning riders are worried here about Philipsen. Can he get back on the bike? Nico, this doesn't look good.
No,
they've left him.
Yes, they've left him. That's not a good news.
Jasper Philipsen, the green jersey, the first yellow jersey of this race, is left lying in the grass at the side of the road, with his green jersey in tatters and potentially his dream of continuing in the Tour de France on a knife edge.
You see when the rider from Intermarché tries to lead out, A little bit of turning around there, just a slight second of touching the brakes.
Coquard
there he goes,
moves.
Coquard clipped out.
I'd like to see that again. I think Coquard hit the wheel of
the rider of
from
Intermarché.
Philipsen, can he get back on the bike? This is not looking good. And a real go at Brian Coquard by the team of Alpecin de Koning, because they saw exactly what happened. The medical team at the moment I don't think they feel that Philipsen can continue. They are already bandaging him up.
Yeah, it looks very much like if it's a collarbone at the minimum.
Confirmation that Jonathan Milan wins the sprint ahead of Paul Pennoet and Caden Groves. Terrible, terrible news. I've just heard on Radio Tour the abandon of the green jersey of the Tour de France. Jasper Philipsen is out.
Yeah, that's bad for the Tour. Again, we talked about it today. Unfortunately, today it's also about staying right. And when you go and take the risk into the intermediate sprints, you need to go and take risks. This is very unfortunate, though. This wasn't about taking risks. It was about under the ride taking it down.
Let's take another look here, Nico.
Oh, they've touched bars, actually. Oh, look at the sparks.
Oh, I mean, we're at top speed at that point. Not heavy, not
at 60k an hour.
60k an hour in a headwind, and he hit the ground really hard.
Looks like the two riders hit their bars. Coquard doesn't seem too bothered.
Here we go again. He did. Coquard moves across to the right-hand side and hits bars.
Yeah, he didn't look.
Oh, Philipsen hits the ground so hard.
It looks like he was just about to go to the right and didn't notice there was a rider there.
Terrible moment from the dream of a yellow jersey and taking that on stage one to being left at the side of the roads on stage 3 of the Tour de France. Despair for Jasper Philipsen. An emotional moment to see a leader dropped like that onto the ground.
Well, the Tour is a very cruel race, and you could be the top sprinter in the world, wearing green jersey, winning a stage, being in yellow jersey, and then being home on stage 3. It's a very, very cruel sport. I guess this is also why we spoke about the unexpectable, and there's always a story in the Tour. There's always a good story, there's always a bad story, and this is why it's so important to make the most of every single good moment on the Tour, because it literally just brings you back down to reality in no time. Unfortunately, today it happened again in a very... It would have been better if it was well, there's no better or worse, but I mean, this is very, very, very unfortunate.
Oh,
he's in the spotlight now.
Brian Coquard, though, he won't have wanted that in any way to happen.
It's never, I mean, you could clearly see he tried to go to the right. He didn't see the rider from Intermarché, bumped into him. That was coming from behind, leading Girmay.
I think it was Hugo Page he bumped against, but he slightly moved to the right, and then he had nowhere to go. Once you've bumped bars, Nico, that's it, game over. You're going to go left.
And he was lucky not to crash himself. He was hanging on the top tube.
As Nico said, the Tour de France waits for no one. Whilst we've enjoyed watching Jasper Philipsen win that incredible stage on day number 1, now he'll just be left, and someone else will have to succeed him in the team as their sprinter. But Alpecin de Koning are now shaken by the loss of the green jersey.
What's really cruel in sport is we'll only remember the victory of tonight and the green jersey of tonight and the one in Paris. But that happens every year. The Tour is great for creating champions. And, well, there'll be a new green jersey, new green jersey leader over the next couple of days.
We hope he's okay, because the way he's lying there, it really is pretty bad.
Yeah,
knew
he hit that
immediately.
shoulder at really high speed. It wasn't like he put the hand in front and kind of slowed his, the way he hit. I'm surprised if he didn't hit his head even.
And the doctors knew immediately, and the telltale sign, Nico, was the fact that the Alpecin riders got straight on the bike and left.
Yes. And in a way, I had a couple of messages here today about, do riders train to fall? No, but riders have a better way of falling than another. And if you purely look at how he fell, you know he's not used to falling, but he knows how his body reacts in falling. He literally, when he turned around, there was no way of putting the hand to go and break the scaphoid or the elbow. He kind of rolled himself, and yes, he takes a lot of skin on the back, but the way he fell, he protected himself from a lot more major breaks. You often see, unfortunately, some of the climbers who are not as comfortable with falling, kind of being a bit of all over the place and doing a lot more damage on these types of fall.
This is the Collegiate Church of Saint Pierre, 15th century construction, a parish church since 1802 and listed as an historical monument in 1862. I really feel for Jasper Philipsen. I really do, because I know how much, look at this wonderful canopy over this town and the Tour de France going underneath. That's pretty special. But I know how much it meant to Jasper Philipsen last year, where he struggled so much at the beginning of the race to get the victory he was looking for. And then for him to, I knew that he wanted so much to take the yellow jersey and to win that first stage, and then to achieve it. He sent me a message the other night because it had said, well done. And he replied immediately to say, thanks so much, because it meant so much. But for him to walk away now from the Tour de France in an ambulance is such an awful moment. And this is why we said in the first hour of commentary, let's, Nico, one more time, take a look.
Well, just as he's about to lead out Bingen Girmay, and look at Girmay, really, I don't know how many other riders, wow, there you go. He literally turns himself as he's falling, but what a crash. And yes, at the same time that Coquard was going to go and see the opening of a sprint, while the rider from Intermarché was going to lead out Bingen Girmay on the right-hand side of the road.
Brian Coquard doesn't really react. He's probably more shocked as well. I mean, at the end of the day, he doesn't want to crash either. And he managed not to crash.
No, but unfortunately,
he caused it.
He caused it, and he will take the blame without doubt.
Well, the team is very, very close. Jonas Rijkaard at the back here. He's coming back to have a conversation with the guys in the team car. He probably wants to know.
No, that was the Soudal car. He's probably going to say we're going to stop riding.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because Jasper is no longer there. Or do they switch for Caden Groves? But there's no more guarantee that Caden Groves would be a winner of a stage.
I mean, was it 6 stages in the Vuelta? 8 stages in the Vuelta.
Yeah.
So he knows how to win his bike race.
He does.
And he will have to be plan B.
Points winner in La Vuelta, stages in the Giro, twice winner of the points in the Vuelta. So yeah, he's a good plan B, but they don't want him to be plan B.
No. And again, you see the flags now. It's still a blocked headwind, and we're going to get that drag race. Well, for the next 50-odd kilometers, the race do kind of go left and right at some point, so the wind will come slightly more to the right or slightly more headwind. And about 10 kilometers, they will get closer to the Mont Cassel, which I have done the other day on stage 1. And I'm happy that it stopped raining for them. Be dry on the cobbles.
we're going to take you back a little bit in history to 1960 as we raced into Dunkirk and the end of the line for Bahamontes.
In late June 1960, not where you would expect to find the defending champion of the Tour de France. And yet here was Federico Bahamontes abandoning the race before it had even really begun. Stage 2 took the peloton from Brussels to Malo-les-Bains in Dunkirk, with thousands coming out to cheer the riders on as they made their way across Belgium. But Bahamontes was out of form and suffering with stomach issues. After about 50 kilometers, the Spaniard was halted by a mechanical problem. The Team Spain mechanics working hard to get their leader moving again, but he was losing an awful lot of time. No fewer than 6 of his teammates had waited up to try to bring Bahamontes back to the peloton. But the French, the Belgians and the Italians weren't hanging around, and the man nicknamed the Eagle of Toledo wouldn't get the chance to spread his wings in this 1960 edition. With 45 kilometers to go, he decided to give up the chase. Well, Bahamontes was almost 15 minutes back when he stepped off his bike, to the fury of some of his teammates who felt that they had sacrificed their own chances for nothing. But neither they nor the sporting director could change the Spaniard's mind, and he jumped in the broom wagon. Dunkirk was the end of the line for his Tour title defence.
Wow, what an iconic story, and just those photos around that train station. I had a funny story with Bahamontes, actually. A couple of years ago, I had some Spanish friends who lived in southern France who wanted to import the Spanish cheese, and I went to just down out from Toledo, where he was from, and went to this cheese factory, and randomly there was one of his bikes and a massive poster in it, and apparently the owner's dad or granddad was one of Bahamontes' best friends. The Aquila was his surname. And now the teams are getting into shape again. Drag racing, maillot jaune of Matteo Evenepoel in about 50th, 60th position. He doesn't want to get involved with, he's actually talking with his teammate. Doesn't want to get involved now with the drag racing. Staying out of trouble, a couple of meters off the back of that little front block of the peloton, where all the fighting for position is, holding their ground. About 50k to go. It's a lot of work for the teammates to take the front that far. Let's get pink head unit. I have to ask him about the pink head unit. See, all the other riders were on the yellow one. And you can see the wind is, well, again, turning around slightly from the right. Then it goes headwind, but mainly that three-quarter headwind. But as you can see, when the Tour de France planned to come this way, they were hoping the wind to be from one side or the other. But that definitely not a headwind. And it's still strong. It's quite strong here on the finish line, about 30k an hour. And about 19 kilometers till they hit the climb of Cassel. And fair point, actually. I just got some information that, well, maybe it's the lucky one from the Giro d'Italia that he's just won just over a month ago. Makes sense. 29 kilometers per hour. And confirmation about that strong three-quarter headwind. The open plains of this part of Northern France. And we have the caravan arriving here at the finish line today. And when the caravan arrives, you kind of know there's about literally just a little bit over an hour's racing. Might be an hour 10 today with the headwind. And the climb of Montcassel, 2.3 kilometers at 3.8%. I don't think we expect to see any attacks on the climb. We're still a long way to go, but definitely we'll get the peloton to fight for position. That big surge that we always have, and also because the descent at the bottom of the descent, that will be one of the parts where it's all exposed to really crosswinds, and then you will turn right back into the headwind. It's only short. It's only about 3 kilometers on the way down, but again, the way the riders have been fighting for position, the damage would be at the back of the peloton, not really at the front, like we've seen the other day, because they straight away go back into this big road, big wide road for the last 25 kilometers. And actually, I got sense there was another rider, and it was a white jersey. It was hard to pick up, that went straight into the ditch on the right-hand side of the road. We haven't had any news from him in that crash with Philipsen.
Yeah, I wonder who that was. We haven't got any more information about that from anywhere. Jasper Philipsen has not finished 3 of his 8 Grand Tours. But yeah, we haven't got any knowledge of who that was at the side of the road. We've got about, what, 15 kilometers, 14 kilometers to the base of Mont Cassel. We're going the same way up Mont Cassel this time than we did 2 days ago.
I have a doubt, because
Me too.
We turned at the bottom today because we were running a little bit late. And on the way back with Luis was like, maybe we should have gone up to check if it was the same side, because there's 3 sides.
Yes. I'll leave that with you. The peloton still blocked as they make their way towards this climb. At the front of the race, you'll notice the complete lack of Alpecin-de-Koning now. The team of Jaco Alula are up at the front, and we've also got Movistar on the right-hand side. The real effort and impetus has gone out at the front of this peloton for now until we get to the climb. We'll see how that is dealt with.
It's a different climb, different side.
So the descent is going to be a little bit different to what we saw the other day. We're going to see how this plays out then. It's a longer climb, isn't it, this time, I think, from day number 1. 2.3 kilometers of climbing. We're going to take a little look back at one of the times that we came to Dunkirk, which was the last time we were here in 2001. Let's take another little look back in history. The last stage finish in Dunkirk was in 2001, although it wasn't technically a stage, but a prologue, which would determine the first yellow jersey of that edition. Christophe Moreau, the leader of the Festina team, ended up setting the fastest time, despite not doing any specific preparation on his time trial bike. He covered the distance in 9 minutes and 20 seconds, a distance of 8.2 kilometers. His average speed, 52.7 kilometers an hour. Christophe Moreau in that 2001 edition. So it's been a long time since we came here, and notably the crowd is massive again. One thing we haven't covered today yet, and we're getting close to the race finish, is any decisions by the commissaires yesterday. And in fact, they didn't give out any fines at all on yesterday's stage. They did scan 19 bikes to make sure there was no technological fraud, and there was nothing found. And today they've said that feeding will open from 30 kilometers of racing until 20 kilometers to go. The medical report of yesterday, Fred Wright had a crash, which we know. He had a cut above his eye. Lennart van Velt had various different injuries. He was checked for the protocol of concussion.
Yeah, that's the burn from the tire, all right.
He's working his way to the back of the peloton. I don't know about you, but this peloton almost feels like it's in a bit of shock.
No, as you can see, show goes on. Milan still sprinted to the line to get the points. He slowed down, he got the information, but it was one single rider. At the end of the day, like I said, it's, yes, for us in the media side, it's the green jersey of the Tour de France, yellow jersey yesterday, winner to say 2 days ago. But this happens all the time. Show must go on.
So they just roll and they deal with it, and that's it. Probably the one person who's most shaken and perhaps
Coquard,
having to deal with what's going on in his head right now is Brian Coquard.
Because he knows that when he's going to get to the finish line, every media is going to ask him about it.
Yeah.
And he's like, how do I deal with that?
And will he get a briefing from his press officer or whatever as to how to deal with it, or will he just be human about it?
I have no idea. There's not much to say. It's like, oh, I'm really sorry. I wanted to go right. It's a sprint, and the door was closed. I touched bars, and unfortunately, I crashed the rider. That's it. I don't think this point of, if it was any other rider, we'd be saying, oh, poor guy. But because it's a green jersey, the Tour de France would bring a lot more importance to it. But reality, unfortunately, as hard as it sounds, is just a rider like another rider. It's not because you're wearing a jersey that you consider yourself more important in the peloton than not.
But Brian Coquard is going to have a very busy evening, unfortunately.
Busy evening, and I wonder if he's going to go and commit in the sprints today. He's been very quiet at the back of the bunch, a little bit with the hat of shame.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day as well, he has a job to do. He is paid by Cofidis to try and win this stage.
Of course, and crashes in sprints happened so often. How many times have Philipsen crashed Coquard, whoever else?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just the way, that's the nature of their job.
Nobody crashes someone on purpose.
44.1 kilometers of racing to go. We're going to bring you up to speed in case you're just joining us now with what has been going on what is a pretty sedate stage of the Tour de France. But as we always say, anything can happen. Stage 3 of the Tour de France left Valenciennes at just after 1:10 in the afternoon. Rain pouring down on the riders and everybody clad against the pouring rain with their rain jackets on. The wind coming mainly from the right-hand side into the face. There were some early moments where it looked like there might be a breakaway. Ultimately, nothing happened. But the biggest headline of this year's Tour so far is this, and it's an unfortunate one. The loss of the green jersey, Jasper Philipsen, out of the Tour de France. Jonathan Milan took the intermediate sprint at 60.1 kilometers to go for the team of Lidl Trek. And Jasper Philipsen just had immediate knowledge that he wasn't going to continue in this year's Tour. Brian Coquard moving to the right-hand side, bumping handlebars with the rider from the team of Intermarché. And that was Lawrence Rex. The medical team looking after Philipsen, unable to continue. Victor Campenaerts pouring water on his head. Must be getting a little bit warmer out there on the roads. Throws the water bottle into the team car. Something I've just heard on Radio Tour, Brian Coquard being asked to go to the red car.
Oh, maybe yellow flag time. Remember those yellow flags?
Yellow flags, yellow cards are
Yellow
now
cards.
been given. Nico, keep an ear on Radio Tour because something is happening. Just heard the name of Brian Cocker. Did they just give him a yellow card? I just heard.
No, they said yellow flag for the corner.
Ah, okay.
The timing was almost perfect,
Almost
especially me saying
perfect.
flag instead of card. No, they said, be careful, sharp corner, there's a yellow flag for the corner.
I thought
There
they'd
he is,
said
there's a yellow
that
flag.
as well as a yellow card. I heard the corner and then I thought they were giving him a yellow flag. Right, we'll wait and find out. Well, the fans are enjoying this race, even if it is more steady than we anticipated. All the photographers are at the finish line, ready for that all-important photo of the race winner.
Like an hour to go.
I know, but they're all there in
Fight for
position.
position.
They do. There's a bit of a hierarchy in the photographers. The Church of Saint Martin. Years ago, the most famous photographer would have been Graham Watson. He was a very quietly spoken photographer, but his experience was so many years that if Graham wanted to be in position, then Graham would be in position. Then now, I think there's really a bit of a hierarchy. Probably the most experienced photographer.
Bettini? Is that him?
Probably Bettini and Tim Davala. And you won't argue with those two.
No.
They will decide and tell you pretty clearly where you're allowed to go and where you're not allowed to go. And if they want to stand where they want to stand, they're going to stand there. And then the rest of the photographers will deal with their positions. One thing you don't see at the race finish is that the photographers are all positioned on the left-hand side as we look down the finish straight. The right-hand side is the riders come in, and the riders know about that. But what you don't know is that the photographers are all on a big metal scaffold at the side of the road, but actually on the road, which is quite often why you see the riders come flying over the line and then deviate very quickly to the left-hand side because they have to avoid what is a hard structure full of photographers.
And plus, a lot of the photographers are also sitting on the ground.
Yes. Which is why when you see that final shot, there doesn't seem to be much road to deal with when you go across the line flat out. We're coming up towards Mont Cassel. We reach that in 7 kilometers time. Team and Movistar moving up on the left-hand side. Critical climb today, Nico, or just one that the riders will feel they need to just roll over?
No, I think we will see a little bit of an acceleration to get into position. I can't see anything happening on the climb. Still quite a long way into the headwind on the big road. You can see the headwind is a proper block headwind.
1 point on offer at the top of this climb. Ryan Cocker still right at the back of this peloton. So 1 point on offer. There's 1 point of a lead of Tadej Pogačar. Can we see Pogačar going for the King of the Mountains points or not?
Why not? I think it will depend on how the race goes, if he needs to accelerate or just roll over the line. And we see the motorbikes. You said the other day that on the stage of Lille, they were able to cut and they send them on different ways. They were expecting, they deviated the motorbikes to make them take shortcuts. And this time around, well, it's back to normal.
Jonas Rush coming back to the peloton. Another sprinter who is hoping to try and win a stage is the Sprinter for them, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe team, Jordi Mus. He's won a stage of the Tour de France before. We're 39.5 kilometers from the finish. Got to get over Mont Cassel first. But let's hear from Jordi Mus now. His thoughts on today's stage and the run into Dunkirk.
Before we talk about the sprint, today is again a stage where you will need to remain extremely focused and as much as possible at the front of the pack.
Yeah, exactly. There's still quite a lot of wind. It's not perfect for echelons, but still the first day was a little bit the same, and unfortunately we got surprised, and the goal is that it doesn't happen again today.
Super strong team out there, Alpecin, with Caden, with Mathieu, and of course with Jasper, but they're beatable.
Yeah, I think they are beatable. It's pretty hard. They've shown that they are in a great shape, and they really know how to get their timing right. But yeah, the goal is definitely to beat them, and we think it's possible.
That interview done before the stage, of course. Jasper Philipsen now out of the Tour de France. Jordi Mus, Nico, a rider who knows how to win a stage of the Tour de France.
He's won on the Champs-Élysées last year, and he was so close multiple times in some of the flatter stages.
Ryan Kloppar at the back.
And in Dunbar having a chat with Michael Woods.
Jordi Mus, a rider who's got real power, hasn't he? But his timing on the Champs-Élysées a couple of years ago was perfection.
Yeah, I think the Champs-Élysées, it's all about timing. Is coming in so fast, you really need to time your surge.
And quite often at Champs-Élysées, you get headwind. So today he's got to deal with that headwind into the finish, and it's still a block headwind here.
Yes, it is, yes.
Yep, so nothing's changed at all. Sometimes we can sit here before the start of the stage and think, okay, well, the wind is going to be a block headwind, and then it comes from the side.
Yeah, there's a lot of times I do the recon in the morning, and I'll come back and give you a feedback, and then next thing we're looking at the riders and the flags, and I'm like, it's literally changed in the afternoon.
Yeah, switches around. But here, yep, everything is still as it was. 38.2 kilometers to go. Tim Wellens just moving forward a little bit. He just had a quick conversation and said, I'm just going to go forward. And I wonder why. Tim Wellens is second overall in the King of the Mountains. And he's just said to the teams around him, I'm just going to go up the road. Is this agreed that Tadej Pogačar isn't going to wear the King of the Mountains and Tim Wellens is going to try and take it instead?
Why not? And it looks like it's no one's really interested in him going to go and get the points.
He's not far from Mont Cassel.
Still 4K. Well,
and another crash at the back of this peloton.
Yeah, we knew today was going to be a day with these little crashes with that strong headwind. The peloton rides so close to each other.
Alexei Lutsenko down. Let's take another look here.
And at very front of the...
Oof. The actual crash started at the front and ended up with the riders at the back crashing. So Alexei Lutsenko held up by that crash. Wellens has gone clear. I would imagine Benjamin Thomas is not going to be too happy with this, surely, because he has got 2 points as well.
Yeah, but he's not looking like he's going to dispute the KOM, and I think the peloton was happy with Tim Wellens going off on his little adventure. No reaction from the peloton.
Yeah, no reaction at all as Tim Wellens goes forward.
And good thinking, good thinking from Pogačar to give the jersey to a teammate.
I mean, he even told the riders, I'm just going to go up the road now, guys. Thank you very much.
I think he's also telling them that I'm going to sit up afterwards. That's an important, more than saying, guys, I'm going in attack. It's like, guys, I want to get my points. And once I get my points, it's good. I'm coming back. I'm not a threat to you sprinters.
That's important. Brian Cockard, bike change.
We've had that tune before.
Have we?
Yesterday. It's not the one that I've mentioned, but we've had that one before.
How are you remembering?
I mean, the lyrics are easy. Oh, 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 oh. So far I can remember that.
I don't know how you're remembering the tunes that the bands are playing at the side of the road. Surely Benjamin Thomas must be thinking, let's go back and get the jersey. Because whoever wins the point today wears the jersey.
Yeah, but Benjamin Thomas is somewhere here at the back of the peloton. He'll have to push most of the riders to get back up and go. And I don't think that most of the big leaders have the same respect for Tim Wellens that they have for Thomas, unfortunately.
No. One rider in the lead, the Belgian champion, Tim Wellens, as he goes forward to try and take the points at the top of Mont Cassel, a 2.3 kilometer climb at just under 4%. 34 years of age now, Tim Wellens. Big Palmares as he takes a right-hand turn and starts to build his advantage, 31 seconds. Winner of the Eneco Tour, winner of the Grand Prix Montreal, winner of the Tour of Poland. Nico, let's take a look at this.
So here's the wind. Again, at the moment, still a block headwind. It's going to be a little bit more to the left when the riders would take that right turn. But once again, once they get over the climb, it's a bit protected there by the hill. And then once they get to the top, they'll go down. Bit of a three-quarter tailwind, headwind, excuse me, on the descent. That right, and then second left, and then they're straight into a headwind all the way to the finish. And that's that main road there where it's at 25k to go.
Tim Wellens, who just won the national championships of Belgium. He won ahead of Remco Evenepoel in second place. He was 38 seconds behind. Jasper Philipsen was in third at 46 seconds. The race was split to pieces. Behind them was Arjen Levens and Florian Vermeers at 1 minute 33 and Victor Campenaerts at 1 minute 42. They literally blew apart. Tim Wellens went 41.8 kilometers solo to win that Belgian championship, which is no mean feat when considering you've got the likes of Tim Merlier, Remco Evenepoel, Victor Campenaerts, Florian Vermeers and others trying to win the race.
And especially if you take in mind that he wouldn't have support